All right, welcome back. It's the Island Contracting Nightly Sports Call here in Pittsburgh, CW, 412-575-2600. Nick Kingham has fallen apart now. He's well over 50 pitches. He's gone an inning and 2/3. It's now 4-2. Escobar just missed a home run, hit off the top of the wall, gets by Cabrera, and then the race is on, Gene. So all of a sudden, the bullpen's not going to get another night off, and it's going to be overworked.
Yes, it is. And Escobar is, whatever information the Pirates have on him, it is wrong. Where that just missed going out. Escobar was on base 12 times in the 4-game series in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. They have no idea what to do about him.
No, I was really hoping they'd sign Adam Jones, who was a bargain this offseason.
Or as I refer to him on this show, Adam Oates.
Adam Oates. But you know what I meant. You did too. 8 home runs, 23 runs batted in, and nearly 300 batting average. I would have taken that for $3 million a year.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I want to get your take before we go to lines. John Daly has petitioned the PGA through the American Disabilities Association, and he has been granted his wish to ride a golf cart. This will be the first time since Casey Martin. You might remember Casey in 2012, I think it was. But he had a debilitating disease from birth. It's a blood circulatory issue, and he went to the Supreme Court and before he finally got an opportunity to do that. So, Gene, I'm just curious your take now. He has arthritis, but Daly has had a very interesting lifestyle that probably led to knee issues, which he's had a lot of them. But your take on this, and I think it's an unfair advantage. He's not going to win, but it opens the door for people who can use it as an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I suppose golf has to be really careful, you know, in this situation. But as someone with virtually no regard for golf, it can really use a sideshow. It really should put all the players in carts and just see who's first at the end. You know, it shouldn't be the number of strokes, Bob. It should be the first guy done.
Well, we'll see how it goes, but it's going to take place at Bethpage this week, and they moved the PGA from August to May to not conflict with the NFL season. So let's go to the lines. We're going to begin with Rick in Squirrel Hill. Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Bob?
I'm good, thanks. What's going on tonight?
I did want to comment on John Daly. First of all, I never liked him as a golfer because I think all he cared about is drinking, where he could have had a good career. And I remember the time, I think, at U.S. Open, he kept hitting the ball. But I agree with you. I don't think they should use carts because some of these golf courses, they have hills, especially around Pittsburgh. You have to walk up hills, down hills. It could be 90 degrees. And I know this sounds stupid. I don't agree with carts, but if John Daly's allowed a cart in a tournament, then all the other players should have the option to have a cart then, too, to make it even.
But you know what? Most of them wouldn't want one. Tiger Woods has gone on record as saying even when he had a broken, remember when he had a broken leg in the 2008 U.S. Open and he beat Rocco Mediate? He didn't want any help. That was part of...
Right, but at least they have the option then to make it even.
Well, I know, but
I don't agree with that.
See, I think if you... All right, thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Rick. Gene, I want to take you back to 1994, U.S. Open at Oakmont. It was Arnold Palmer's last one. Remember how hot it was? Chris Patton, who weighed an awful lot, an obese individual on the golf tour. Very good golfer, but everyone knew he wasn't going to last in that heat, and he didn't. I think he went 8 holes and he withdrew.
Really?
Yes.
I have no recollection.
You know, well, I do. And I thought that was
the night of OJ's ride.
It was. How about that? That whole day was weird.
I know.
Imagine that in Twitter today.
Oh, my.
Oh, my. But anyway, the, you know, and he just couldn't deal with the physicality, the fatigue of walking in those conditions. So I do think it is an advantage. So we'll see. All right, let's go to Jim in South Hills. Hey, Jim, by the way, it's 5-2 Pirates now. Kingham's up near 60 pitches. Man.
D-backs, yeah.
Well, thanks for taking my call, Bob.
Sure.
Last night you guys finished the show with talking about whether golfers are athletes. And you said that they are. I agree with you 100%. Maybe 25 or 30 years ago, no. But now you look at what these guys do to stay in shape. And when you double that with the fact that with the weather and steep hills you have to climb, the hell with the cart, you know? Nobody should be in a cart, and there's definitely an advantage there for those players. The other thing I wanted to mention about your comments last night was, and this is really hard to understand if you don't follow golf, is there really are 3 governing bodies in golf. One is the PGA of America, which is who's sponsoring this tournament and the Ryder Cup. And then there's the PGA Tour, which takes care of the tour. And then there's the USGA. And when the USGA made the ruling with Casey Martin, you can bet that the PGA, they're not going to fight that battle again. That's my thoughts on on why they're not going to fight the battle.
It's a sensitive issue with many, and I'm not trying to deprive anyone an opportunity to do what they feel like doing if they have, you know, some sort of limitation. But I also think you start opening that door up, all of a sudden now you're going to get people in air conditioning carts with coolers, with, although Daly may have that himself. He may bring a six-pack with him. He does better when he has it. So I don't know, Gene. I just think it's something that we don't need to go down that road, but we're going to go down that road.
Definitely.
And it will help ratings. I guarantee you that. Absolutely. On television. And who knows, maybe that's one of the reasons he's a popular figure out there.
Yep.
Let's go to Mark in Greensburg. Hey, Mark, what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
You know, Brault and Kingham, I mean, I don't know how they're even on the team, let alone being, you know, starting in AAA, probably not any good. They haven't been good, period, since they've been up. And kudos to the Pirates for having the record they have with those two guys starting. And also, I just have one more point about the A series.
Mm-hmm.
I counted and I watched the ball game again. That umpire behind home plate, there was 26 pitches that were called strikes that he yelled out ball. 26 of them.
Gene, would you please solve this for us? Because
well,
it continues to be, I don't understand.
A number of people talked to me about this after that show where we couldn't figure out what the caller was talking about. And apparently, just as this caller described so well, I mean, you know, the umpire's strike call either sounded like ball or was in fact ball, which is very bizarre. But I don't know what to say about it other than that I didn't see it. So I mean, it sounds strange, but all umpires have a different strike call, and some is just a yell. And I've never heard of that. But who was the umpire? Do we know who the umpire was?
Well, I know the one the other night who I thought had a generous, that was Tim Timmons. I'm not sure who the one was.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've not read anything about this. I've not read any discipline about it or any confusion about it. It really confused the Pirates TV audience, that's for sure.
It certainly did. And it's become an issue and a trending one for us. Let's go to Bob in Indiana. Hello, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking my call, John.
Sure.
Hey, question. Two things. One is, how soon until Corey Dickerson comes back? And when so, will they take Reynolds and send him back down? The other thing, is there anyone else besides Cole Tucker they can put in? Because he's not doing nothing with the bat.
Well,
can't appreciate that.
They got Newman at third tonight because they have no other chance. And to my recollection, he's never played third. As far as Dickerson, no timeline still. Chisenhall's beginning I see a rehab assignment. Yeah. But this has been a long time, Gene, for Dickerson. I don't know what this injury is, but it's lingering, gotten worse. It's set him back. Why?
What is it officially?
I don't know.
Forget. Yeah.
I still don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's been out. Chisenhall's been out. You know, the guy they signed to provide the insurance for Polanco, now, you know, they need insurance for that. But again, you know, the Pirates are just one of the teams that have run into terrible injury problems here early in the season. As for Cole Tucker, I think he's going to play a lot because Gonzalez has a broken collarbone. He's not going to be back for a while. I think Cole Tucker will stick around.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you just got to ride it with him. You know, he's playing okay defensively. He's just got to get his bat, and it takes time. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they need offense from different positions other than Josh Bell.
Right.
I mean, it should have a trickle effect. He should help guys around him in the batting order. Yeah. We'll see if it does.
Getting nothing from their catchers at all.
At all, yeah. And last year was one of their bright spots.
Yeah,
those guys combined to have one of the best averages among catchers.
Right.
We're due for a break. We got more calls on the way. It's 412-575-2600 right here on Pittsburgh CW.